Welcome to another IAB weekly Wednesday webinar. We are delighted to have you here today. If you don't know me, I'm John. I'm the CEO at the IAB in the UK. And today we are going to be talking about the latest in consumer trends, focusing on three areas. On audio, Vicky's internet connection permitting, she'll be joining us to take us through that. We've got Peter joining us to take us through gaming, and Andy talking to us about in-app. So we're looking forward to taking you through that in a minute. I just want to give you a quick intro and take you through a couple of things before we kick off. The first thing is we want to test your fingers and make sure that we can make this interactive. So we're going to start with a very quick poll, which is a shameless plug for ourselves to talk about Engage. So here's the first question for you, which you should have seen pop up on your screen. Which celebrity has not appeared on the IAB UK Engage stage? So click on the person you think has not appeared at Engage, and then click on Submit. And we should get your answers through in a second. We'll see what you said. There is no prize, sadly. The only prize is pride, maybe. If that's a prize, I don't know. Let's see what you answered. Bill Gates. Well, you know, Bill Gates has been on the stage. Bill Gates spoke at the very first Engage. He kicked it off. Stephen Fry has, Rob Brydon has, the Hoff has, Charlie Brooker has not, sadly. And we have tried to get him. But he's not that up for doing. Not up for doing things that that he doesn't deem worthy of his time, which is fair enough. Really, he doesn't want to do commercial stuff. I said we want to try and make it interactive. To do that, there is a Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. You should see it at the bottom of your Zoom window. So just type in if you have any questions for any of us at the IB or for any of the people presenting. Please just type it in there, and we will either answer it as we go through or answer it at the end. So please answer questions if you have any whatsoever. Just type them in. So yes, a shameless plug of Engage. Now, of course, this was supposed to be the year we reimagined Engage. We had a new venue booked up on the South Bank, and it was supposed to be tomorrow. And obviously it won't be tomorrow in the South Bank, but it is still happening. It's going to happen in a very different way. So Engage is going to be coming to you off stage, and there will be daily off stage sessions coming to you now over the next couple of weeks. Here are all of the people that have got sessions. You see the URL there, ib.com/stay-engaged. If you go to that, you can sign up to get the daily updates and listen to each one as they come out. It kicks off tomorrow with the amazing Tom Goodwin from Publicis. He's the head of futures and insight there. You may have seen Tom on stage. You probably follow him on Twitter. He is absolutely fantastic and has an incredible mind. He's definitely worth listening to. So sign up and listen to Stay Engaged. It should be a great set of sessions. One of the things we launched since the coronavirus lockdown started was IAB Connected, and it brings together all of the things that we think you'll find useful whilst we're under lockdown. It's the lowdown on lockdown, as I like to call it, and no one else does. So visit that on our website. There's tons of useful stuff in there. There are training sessions, so we've changed our training sessions. They're a third of the price and virtual now. So please go there and sign up to any of the training courses that you can see. There are webinars in there as well. So there's a couple coming up on user identity, which are free for members to sign up to. There's a ton of other stuff under IB Connected as well, from advice on what businesses can do to other ways that the IB can help you during lockdown as well. So there are a whole bunch of presentations that we can arrange to do with your teams. So you tell us what you're interested in, you set the time, and we will come and do a bespoke one-to-one session with you. So there's a selection of about 8 or 9 presentations there. So you can book those up on the site, and we'd love to come in and be talking to your teams as well. One of the other things we have in IAB Connected is sharing some of the great things that our members are doing during lockdown. And Hebe from our marketing team is now going to take over from me and tell you some of those things that we've had shared recently. So Hebe, if you're there.
Yeah, I'm here. Thank you, John. I'm Hebe from the marketing team here at IAB UK. For the next few minutes, I'm going to share just a handful of some of the amazing work so many of our members have been working on in reaction to COVID-19. So first up, with searches and time spent on Pinterest up 55% year on year, the team have put together a Stay Inspired board to help audiences during this out of the ordinary times, including work from home top tips, advice on keeping healthy, advice on keeping the kids entertained, cooking with limited ingredients, and more. In addition to this, Pinterest's commitment to supporting small businesses and e-commerce businesses means that they've revamped key shopping features, making it easier than ever before for retailers to succeed on the platform. Next up, the marketing industry has been live with debate surrounding the effectiveness of influencers. Are curators trustworthy? Do likes convert to sales? And should brands or the influencer dictate the content of the post? Takumi set to answer these questions in their 2019 white paper, Trust, Transaction and Trendsetters, The Realities of Influencer Marketing, surveying 4,000 consumers, marketeers and influencers across the UK, US and Germany. But with so much change happening in the current climate, what does this mean for the influencer? Takumi have launched a new survey to identify the current state of the influencer industry, and the insights found will form part of their latest white paper launching later this month. And finally, mastering a crisis is not something many of us or any of us have had to do before. GfK have set up a COVID-19 resource centre containing all the latest marketing intelligence to help businesses manage disruption and make the right decisions. From breaking trends around supply chains, point of sales, consumer behaviour and consumer sentiment. As part of this resource centre, a weekly pulse report powers decision-making with actionable insights to help businesses come out of the crisis stronger, better positioned and closer to customers than ever before. They've also run a webinar for their UK client base on how COVID-19 is impacting buying behaviour and shaping future intentions of UK consumers. You can find out more about everything I've discussed today on our website, and if you'd like to get involved, please drop myself an email at hebe@iabuk.com. And now I'm going to pass over to the lovely Cece.
Hi everyone, Catherine here from the IAB. So I'm going to talk to you about our Consumer Insights Hub. So Frankie, if you could skip to the next slide, please. Yes, so I've been having lots of conversations with our members since lockdown began about what they're kind of after and what we can do for them. And something that has come up time and time again, especially with the buy side, a lot of our agency members, has been kind of consumer insight as to what people are doing, particularly with media, since everybody is now working from home. And there's been particular questions around specific areas of digital. So audio, gaming, VOD and in-app were the kind of main ones that came up. So what we decided to do was look into some of the kind of wonderful reports that our members have been pulling together and sort of bring those together and focus every single week on a different area of digital. So we started with audio. About 3 or 4 weeks ago. We had gaming a few weeks ago. We had VOD last week, and in-app is being launched tomorrow. And in here, in each of these areas of our website, you can find lots of different resources in terms of there's podcast episodes, there's reports, and there's a thought leadership piece as well on each of those on our website, all looking into consumer trends. And if you go to the next slide, Frankie. And today, what we've got for you is three representatives from three different areas of digital who are going to talk to you about what they've been seeing in their businesses in terms of consumer trends. So we've got Peter Jacobs, who's going to speak first from Dentsu, talking about gaming insights during COVID-19. Then we've got Andy Chandler from Adjust talking about in-app insights during COVID-19. And then after that, we've got Vicky Foster from Bauer Media talking about audio insights during COVID-19. And Vicky's internet's been a little bit dodgy today, so we sincerely hope that it works out, that she can join us and present to you guys. But if that does fail, we will record it and make sure we can get it out to you as soon as possible. But now I will hand over to Peter, who's going to share his screen and talk to you about gaming trends.
Hello, everyone. Just booting up my screen. I'm Peter Jacobs from Dentsu Aegis Network. I hope you can all see that. Is that a touch better? Okay, so I want to talk to you today about gaming and how COVID-19 has changed the consumption of gaming and how that looks for advertisers as well. But first things first, I should probably think about how I've changed during this time. And the first thing that springs to my mind is the unbelievable amount of tea I've been drinking. I must be on about 6 or 7 cups a day, which is a record for me. But moving on to the media side of things, I've definitely been watching more subscription TV, catching up on all of those things I promised myself I've been watch over the years. Watching Chernobyl at the moment, which is not the best choice to watch during lockdown. As a little heads up, it's very good, but it's not uplifting. The second thing I've noticed is that I do listen to less podcasts and music. I primarily used my commuting time to listen to podcasts and my Spotify playlists. But now I'm not commuting and it's just a walk into the front room. I spend far less time actually consuming that type of audio content, which is a change to the norm, I'd expect. But everyone's got their own routine. And then gaming, plenty more gaming for me. And that is the topic which I want to talk to you about. So, as you're all probably aware and you've all probably seen, social distancing has led to a huge uptick in gaming. So the IAB, as Catherine mentioned, produced a fantastic document about stats and the media consumption of it all. And as you'd expect, everything is spiking, everything is going up. And there's some real headline grabbing work going on as well. So the UK government, for example, have used in-game advertising through Bidstack to, share their stay at home, stay lives message. We've seen Xbox and Nintendo servers go down because so many people want to log in. We're seeing record numbers on YouTube and Twitch, which I'll come on to in a minute, but also a massive, massive boom in esports, and especially sporting esports. So rather than the fantasy type games like Overwatch and Dota, sports fans are starved at the moment. And so they're turning to new avenues to consume that kind of competitive play. And I will come on to that a touch later. So to look at the stats, as I mentioned, everything is going up. So it was hard to pinpoint some areas which would be of most interest. But here are some stats that I've got from partners like Twitch, Playwire, Bidstack, and also Statista. And so to look at the country breakdowns, we're seeing a massive spike across all connected nations, so all nations with a high percentage of Wi-Fi connectivity. And a 45% increase in time spent gaming within the US, and a 29% increase in the UK. As you'd expect, across EMEA, all of those numbers are kind of showing that positive trend. And if we look at the game type and some large titles, Overwatch has seen an increase of total game sessions of 52%. So that's a huge spike there. And Minecraft has even gone up more than that at 80%. Minecraft is obviously, it's aiming at a slightly lower demographic age-wise. So I think that a large percentage of that could be towards kind of school age audiences. But it's not just children playing games anymore. So it was released at the end of last month, I believe, that Grand Theft Auto 5 is the highest grossing media of any type ever. It's been around for about 7 years now, and the numbers it's still pulling in terms of downloads, in terms of purchases, gaming sessions are eye-watering. And so it shows that a huge range of audiences that are playing games at the moment at home on their various forms of devices. And then I wanted to look at Twitch as being one of the main gaming platforms and streaming platforms out there. Their numbers are again eye-watering. So they've seen 195% uptake for first-time users since the lockdown began. So they're reaching a whole new range of audiences. The reach out there that Twitch can get through people starting to log in, starting to consume content there is astronomical, and it will continue to rise just like Twitch has done to date, to be honest. And then that also mirrors in the UK behaviour as well. So there's a 65% increase of average daily viewers in the UK. Again, a huge, huge increase if you think about the already large numbers that we're pulling in daily. So all of these stats point to one thing: gaming's going up. That's probably quite obvious at the moment. But probably what's more interesting is, does this mean that attitudes are changing? Why is that? What does that look like? And it begs the question, how far does this go? So if we look at some sporting stars, we've seen a big overlap from sports stars going into esports and the gaming community. This is Lando Norris. He is a McLaren Formula One driver. He also plays games online and streams himself on Twitch. He actually set a record for the highest number of F1 viewers on Twitch during this social distancing lockdown period. And I think it was about a week ago, he was racing in a televised event around IndyCar. So even though he's a Formula One driver, he was competing in esports game against IndyCar drivers, and he was doing very well. He was winning the race, and an IndyCar driver who's, you know, a professional. He's won Indy 500, very well regarded. A guy called Simon Pagenaud took him out as he was about to win the race. Now, if anyone's ever played a racing game online, this is very, very common. But it did create headlines. It caused a stir on social media. And it started a new type of conversation, I'd say. It's just how important are esports? And Lando Norris actually came out afterwards and said this. I won't read all of it, but just to pick out a few things here. He said that it's quite a bit more serious over the last few weeks. He said, personally, for different drivers, for different teams and sponsors, there's companies and teams and so on that still need advertising. He identifies that esports is such a growth area, and during this period, more people are turning to sport through esports, that it's potentially more than just a game now. The money's going up, the viewership's going up. Should it be seen slightly different? And he does go on to say that it is more than a game now when it's at this sort of level. So he, being in a kind of a unique position where he's a star in the real world, shall we say, and in the online world through racing, and there's a huge, huge community, and has respect in both kind of ecosystems and each world. He does think that there is a change going on right now to do with the attitudes. And if we look at another sport, for example, football, plenty of people, including myself, are football starved at the moment. And you find yourself kind of thinking, okay, what can I do? What can I watch? How can I fill those hours which I spent in front of the TV watching Liverpool win loads of games up until a couple of months ago? So they're positioning it as esports. So the highlighted piece on the bottom right there, missing football, we'll get your fix here. So that's Sky Sports News saying, look, here's a viable option for you to watch, to not only connect with the people that you used to watching on TV, because they've had sports stars, they've had celebrities competing for each Premier League team in this event, but also it gives you that competitive action, which a lot of people watch sport for. So even Sky Sports and the BBC, who have shown this event as well, are positioning esports more and more as a viable alternative to real world sports, which, as we know, is hugely competitive, hugely important for millions of people around the world. So what has changed? And I'll pinpoint 4 key areas here, and then I'll sum them up next and how that actually looks. So from the top left, we got Ben Stokes there. He was the sporting hero in the UK last year when he basically won us the Cricket World Cup, and a bunch of other heroic innings and events that he did. He crossed genres and actually took part in a Formula One esports event. He now pulls in huge crowds to whatever he does. He is sports personality of the year last year. You know, lots of people follow what he does. And that type of event where he was cross sports really captured the imagination. It showed what can be done in esports, which you can't do in the real world to a kind of a competitive level. And then on top right, we have Andy Murray, who won the Madrid Open, the virtual Madrid Open, I should say. There are no sporting events going on, as everyone knows. So companies, organisations, sporting bodies are putting together virtual tournaments. And Andy Murray has said he's a keen gamer on before, and he proved the point by winning the first ever esports virtual tennis competition. And then going down to the bottom right, looking at a slightly different area, is Travis Scott's remarkable concert that he did within Fortnite, which achieved 12 million viewers in the first couple of days alone. So Travis Scott is an American rapper, and he was able to release a couple of songs, do his newest hits, his biggest hits, and change concepts while he was doing it. And it was a very cool and inventive, innovative way to talk to a gaming audience, but talk to his audience on a platform that they know, understand, and use in Fortnite. And then the final point on here is the fella in the banana suit down there. For Formula One fans who recognise him as Charles Leclerc, this guy is doing pretty well in life. He's about 21. He races for Ferrari. He was born and raised in Monaco. He's a catwalk model as well. And here he is dressed as a banana. So what this shows is that people can really talk to their stars, their sporting heroes, in a new way. They can actually see them as different people behind the mask a little bit. They can see them as real personalities, rather than just, you know, what their PR team says they should do. So it does show that the kind of the personalities that you get within esports, and people want to see this right now. They're starved of their normal content, so they want to connect with their sporting heroes still, and it's actually doing good things to break down those barriers between what's real and what's not. So all of this points to 3 key areas. All of these changes are about connections, people connecting with people, and gaming is just another way to do that, but a very inventive and growing way to do it. So through sport, as I mentioned, people are turning to esports to connect with their stars, to connect with their heroes, and see them in a new light. Some people are using gaming channels like Discord, Reddit, Twitch as their social media. So even before COVID-19 happened, there were huge demographics and audiences out there who you can't find on traditional social media or traditional media. Depends on what poll you read, but one of the polls that is out there, that 72% of gamers interviewed use ad blocking technology, and 63% 63% of them don't watch any linear TV. So that's a huge chunk of people right there who brands probably aren't talking to in a traditional sense, or are not talking to at all in some circumstances. And then what gaming does right now is also connection with your friends and family. So I remember during the first weeks of lockdown, I was inundated with messages and I had to get House Party app. Everyone was on it. I downloaded it, used it once, saw there was games and quizzes on there. I was playing it with my friends, and then that was that. I didn't use it ever again. But it does show that, you know, people want to connect with people, and quizzes, as I'm sure everyone has done more than they have in the last 5 years combined, doing quizzes and doing games with your friends through these types of apps are ways to connect with people who you can't see in the real world, unfortunately. So what can advertisers do? Well, I think gaming provides a unique opportunity to show their personality. Every brand has got their own story, every brand's got their own message and their own audience. And gaming can talk to that audience in a new way, and it provides a unique chance for brands to show their sense of humor, to show that they understand and want to talk to people in a kind of a modern way, should we say. So we've spoken about what's good for the advertiser, but it's also important what's good for the end user. Gaming audiences can pay, you know, up to 50 quid for a game. They don't really want advertising in it a lot of the time. So advertising, whether it is in esports, whether it's in games, whether that is through streaming platforms, it needs to enhance to the environment. So whether that is to make the sports stadium look more realistic, like in-game banners does, or whether that is to create a new level or a new costume, outfit, whatever it may be, it needs to add to the game. And then the end user, the gamer, is going to embrace the brand. They're going to want to see more of the brand. They understand that it's actually helped them enjoy the game. So there's a very, very fine level of how you do strategy within gaming. But the ultimate goal always, no matter what the KPI is, the ultimate goal is to make the environment better for the audience. So on that note, it's important that, you know, advertisers embrace this opportunity and they find their own risk level. So just speaking about, you know, how it's important to think about the gamer, but what about, you know, what's safe for the brand? I'm sure everyone on this call has been on brand safety conferences before and meetings. So that's always important, and it is in gaming, of course, but what's suitable? So does the brand want to be in shooting games? And if it does, is that real people shooting real humans, like a Call of Duty type game? Or is it more arcadey, where you could be in a, you know, an alien type game where you're running around shooting aliens and, you know, green blood comes out and it's a bit more jovial? So there is that sliding scale of what's going to be suitable for brand and particular campaigns and products, and that's always going to change. So it does require a certain higher level of strategy and planning than a traditional digital buy. So all in all, I think, is this an inflection point for gaming and esports? I would say yes, it is, but time will tell just how much. I think when sport comes on, naturally people are going to start watching that again, rather than just watch esports like they are now. But who's to say that they're not going? Esports hasn't already got a new set of fans. It's captured their attention. They might carry on watching that, or they might have found that, oh, I really enjoy playing on my Nintendo Switch, or that, you know, Animal Crossing, whatever the big game is at the moment, and they might carry that on and replace my more TV time or podcast time with gaming. So I think we will see an uptick of post-COVID-19 to pre-COVID-19, but time will tell just how much. So I'm conscious that I've probably gone over there. So on that note, I'll pass back to Catherine. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Peter. That was brilliant. So next up, we've got Andy Chandler from Adjust, who is going to talk, share his screen and talk to you guys about in-app trends during COVID-19. And just a reminder that if you have any questions for any of our speakers, please do use the Q&A function and we'll try and get to them as soon as we can. Thank you.
Hi everyone, so we'll try and make this a seamless transition and click play there. So hopefully everyone can see everything they need to see and hopefully not focus on me too much. Really great presentation, Peter. Thanks for that. I definitely feel the same about the amount of tea. I would say, we've all kind of heard on Twitter about partners discovering that you might be a circle back kind of a person on a conference call. Well, my wife's definitely discovered how much tea I tend to drink during the day, and I've had a few questions about it. So yeah, I'm Andy Chandler. I'm the general manager for Adjust. We're a mobile app attribution company. And I just wanted to run you through some top line benchmarks for consumer behavior in apps. This will actually, the overall report will be available on the Consumer Insights during lockdown IAB app section that goes live tomorrow. So you can go there and download it. And obviously, please get in touch if you have any questions. So starting with gaming, just as obviously it's a massive part of the mobile app ecosystem, and definitely mirroring again what Peter was talking about. We've seen a huge increase in the amount of apps being downloaded, especially from such a high base. Mobile games constitute over 50% of all top app charts, but even with that, over 100%, so a doubling of installs between year on year from March 2019 to March 2020 really shows that this is a massive part of the app ecosystem, and definitely it can't be underestimated now just how many people have come to mobile games in the last month. And interesting, as we'll see kind of later on, the way that they actually act inside those apps is very similar to what the existing audience did. So from a user kind of journey point of view, it's incredibly similar, which means for me, I kind of take from that actually that they will prove quite sticky, and that this audience has essentially discovered something new, but will stick around afterwards. And as you'd expect as well, the entertainment vertical has also seen a huge increase. I think this is because even for streaming apps that maybe people were on using their laptops or their TV for, we have seen a shift to that behavior becoming more prevalent on phones and tablets. Obviously, if you're a digital worker, as an example, and you're on your laptop all day, you probably actually want to close your laptop to have a little bit of a break between the work day and the evening, rather than just kind of moving one space on your sofa and then opening your laptop back up. So we've seen over 2 million more app installs year on year, which is a significant growth for what was already a fairly mature market, but nowhere near as mature as the gaming market. Moving on to the health vertical, again, the amount of installs, you can really see a big gap year on year going into March. And I think that from an overall consumer insight, definitely from a personal point of view, I feel like this is really indicative of how apps can actually mirror a wider content move. I know that the amount of health content on Instagram, on social networks, obviously everyone having to get up and do PE with their kids on YouTube in the morning. It shows that this is kind of both in-app as well as with a content move has been really strong increase year on year, with a lot of people actually then also bringing health apps out in order to help with the crisis as well. We've certainly seen an increase of people speeding up their plans to get health apps out to the broader community, literally because they want to help. And obviously time will tell whether there's an app that will actually be directly involved with the virus and tracking. So onto the food and drink vertical. Again, as you kind of expect an increase. What's been an interesting trend here as well is that a lot of the food and drink verticals, think apps that inform you what type of wine that you might like, or matching wines with food. And what we've actually seen is that there's also been a drive by those apps to become much more direct to consumer. So whereas previously they might have relied on advertising or subscription based, a lot of them are actually trying to put some sort of e-commerce platform into the app itself, because they're wanting to reach the consumer directly with their goods, which is a very interesting trend, kind of going from a content background actually into that e-commerce background, which I think will definitely be a trend that continues as people want to reach their audience. And again, the entire app ecosystem is about providing utility. It's about being useful to people, and I think that is very much shown by the food and drink vertical. Going on to business, obviously the amount of video chats that we're all having now is remarkably higher. I think it's no longer just during the week that we're organising video conference calls. Now we have the weekend with them as well. I think what's very interesting here as well is very much a move to actually be buying the premium version of these apps as well. I mean, as they've become more crucial to the wider population. Whereas there would be trial features that you could have, maybe limits to the amount of video calls you could do. We've definitely seen a lot more people on a consumer basis actually going through and triggering those revenue events, actually buying the premium versions, so that they can use them more, which is an interesting trend. And onto e-commerce, which actually had a real struggle going into April from March, where we actually saw a drop, quite significant drop between kind of paid installs. I think this was for a number of reasons. People generally looking just to shop for essentials rather than for luxury goods, as well as businesses themselves being worried about delivery and supply chain. So we saw that drop going in, which especially for e-commerce apps is quite a serious thing, because what we actually see with e-commerce, the amount of uninstalls you get on kind of day 2, day 3 is very high. Usually people are installing an e-commerce app, they're buying whatever it is that come to buy, and then they're uninstalling, which goes to show that a lot of advertising for e-commerce apps is around getting reattribution, so people coming back into the app, so not first-time users, but people actually coming back and reinstalling. And if you compare kind of for e-commerce, the amount of people that do that to say a gaming, where it's a very small amount. Once you've uninstalled a gaming app, you're very, very unlikely to go back to it. It shows that there's a real concern that how are these e-commerce apps going to do kind of into the future. But actually, just some research that we've actually just released today actually shows that there has been a bump back up into both with installs and with sessions, where we're actually seeing that all users, sort of all installs coming out of April was actually 43% up from the end of March. So it's interesting to note that we are seeing that now uptick of people going in, using e-commerce apps, installing them, which generally means that there are purchases going on. So sort of some signs of a recovery for that sector, I think, as people, there's less pressure on delivery services, and people are starting to look at other ways to shop as they're kind of adapting to the new normal. So hopefully that trend can continue, and we can start to see sections of the app ecosystem, as well as the larger ecosystem kind of coming back to where it was. And as I said at the start, the daily usage of apps and the way that these new people into things like games and health, they're really, the amount of sessions they're doing when they're using these apps is very, very similar to kind of pre-COVID. So that is a very interesting. There's a lot of articles across talking about kind of this hastening of digital adoption, which I think is very true. People who weren't perhaps using gaming apps, who perhaps weren't using apps so much, are now discovering them and actually acting the same as they were, which we see both not only in the sort of the times of the day that they're using them, but also within the retention rates. Very similar year on year retention rates for apps, which really goes to show that it's not that there's people kind of coming into the app ecosystem acting very differently, maybe a very high percentage of usage in the first day and then nothing. That actually these people are new to the environment, but are very much discovering it in the same way as the existing audience is. And one kind of final note, just to say that for the app install environment especially, and those advertisers who are looking to use advertising in order to drive app installs, we have also seen an increase in fraud for misattribution for unscrupulous app publishers trying to game the system and actually kind of effectively steal attribution from more legitimate sources. So whilst there's opportunity for some verticals at this time, there are also unscrupulous actors out there that you kind of need to prevent your budgets being in danger from them. So something to bear in mind specifically for those advertisers who are looking to drive app installs as kind of their objectives. So that's a top line, as I say, of the app trend report. Feel free to visit the section tomorrow and download it, and please get in touch if you have any questions. And with that, I'll hand it back over.
Great, thank you very much, Andy. So next up, we have got Vicky Foster, who is going to talk us through some of the trends that Bauer Media have been seeing since lockdown across all their different publications and audio channels. Fingers crossed Vicky's internet works. Vicky, can you, are you there?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, perfect.
Oh, good, great, okay. Yeah, I think the issue was that my children were actually on roadblocks. So schooling from home is going really well here. I'm not going to put my video on because, again, I think that might cause some issues, but I'm definitely not in my pajamas, so that's all good. So good afternoon, everyone. I am Vicky Foster. I'm the Commercial Director at Bauer Media. Frankie is in the driving seat for me at the IAB, so if Frankie could move on to the next slide, that'd be brilliant.
On FM, on digital radio, on your phone and on your smart speaker.
Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat.
On DAB digital radio.
Online.
On the app.
On Sky.
And on your smart speaker.
Play Hits Radio.
Okay, so hopefully that wasn't too loud in your speakers, but the first few slides, I'm just really sort of setting the scene around what we've been doing sort of before this sort of lockdown period and before kind of COVID. And actually, we always saw digital as a real opportunity for us. And actually, we feel that radio is really uniquely positioned to take advantage of that situation. Whereas digital has really disrupted sort of other models, we see it as being a real opportunity for us. And that's going to continue throughout this period. We're definitely seeing extended reach, and there's lots more choice out there with the smart speakers, with smart devices. And what that also brings is deeper consumer engagement as well. So all of these things were already happening. And actually, what we feel they're going to continue to obviously happen during this time and probably beyond lockdown as well. And that gives us a real opportunity around what those advertising opportunities are. Thanks, Frankie. So as I said, we already knew it was changing, and this is set to continue. So just to sort of be really clear what we're talking about here, if Frankie could just build the slide for me. Brilliant, thanks Frankie. Is that when we're talking about digital audio, we're talking about audio that is streamed over a connected device. And that's, apologies if you already know this, but it just wanted to sort of clear that up right at the beginning. Obviously you've got your broadcast buys, which is predominantly now on DAB, and what we're talking about is digital audio over a connected device. Radar is happening. Radar is going to be released tomorrow. So that will be really interesting to see sort of all of those figures. This is part of Radar, it's MIDAS. So it really focuses on the connected stats. 30 million people now listening via a connected device. Again, as I said before, this was always growing. This was always happening, but we're really seeing now all of these areas kind of increasing. There's obviously a really big focus on streaming. And what I'm going to get into as we go through the deck is really sort of what the trends we are seeing across our audiences. They continue to listen across a variety of different platforms, and I think this is really important as well as we're in lockdown, is actually how you can now tap into those audiences while they're potentially multitasking, while they're working from home, while they're listening and streaming audio via their smartphones, and also via their smart speakers, while they're cooking in the evening, while they're going out for a walk, or while they're running. And actually we really feel that the opportunity now there has increased to be able to really sort of tap into those audiences where visuals can't actually reach. So lockdown is continuing to fuel this growth, and it will continue to happen. This slide that you're seeing here is our own slide, where we actually sort of pulled together some data and made our own forecast with regards to what we were potentially going to see in the next sort of 5 sort of 10 years. And actually this slide was done a few years ago, and you'll see there that there's a real increase in digital audio up to 42%, and DAB as well, and obviously a decline in FM and AM. So this was always going to happen. And actually, COVID-19 is accelerating this trend. I think the big thing here will be, is you'll see there's sort of that crossover at 2024 between FM and AM and digital audio. Is that going to happen sooner now? Could that be in the next year, the next 2 years? And as an industry, how do we adapt to that? What does that mean from a trading point of view? What does that mean around measurement? And what does that mean about the products that we're actually creating as well, to make sure that our content is in the right places for our audiences to be able to engage with? So as far as trends is concerned, we've been heavily monitoring this, and we've done it right from the very beginning. As soon as we headed into lockdown, we started to look at our Bowers Insiders panel, where we send out a questionnaire across this panel to really sort of start to understand how they're listening and what they're doing. As you will see, digital audio listening behaviours are massively increased across the board. And I think the interesting one here is obviously around smart speakers, with 31% up. Podcasting is interesting as well. And as Peter mentioned right at the very beginning, podcasting is something that you would normally do on your commute. But actually, I think due to the current kind of situation that we're all in, people are looking for that escapism. They're looking for something that can kind of take them away from what they're currently experiencing. Podcasting is brilliant to be able to do that. And we've seen an 8% increase. That tends to be more at the weekends as well. And I think, we will see that that will increase as well as we move forward. so what are the kind of habits? You know, we have 104 brands across magazines, across audio, and across digital. So we're really looking at, you know, what are people doing? How are their habits changing during lockdown? Obviously, outdoor activities are increasing, walking in particular, homes and garden, 52% now, spring cleaning out their, you know, kitchen cupboards, things that they've never normally probably had the time or been able to do. Entertainment is high up there as well, with subscribing to streaming services, reading books, magazines. But I think the interesting point on this one is not only are these sort of new behaviours kind of happening, but actually 82% are wanting to keep up with these behaviours post-lockdown. So it'd be really interesting to see if that happens. Buying behaviours and what are we seeing and how are they responding to that? Obviously, the biggest trigger has been necessity. It's been food, you know, and we've seen the supermarkets be able to react really well to that. 56% there is really sort of looking at what do they really need. But actually, the interesting point here is people still want to be able to treat themselves. They still want to be able to have those kind of rewards, that entertainment, and they're still looking for things to make their lives a lot easier. As far as considerations are concerned, when they're looking and when they're sort of seeing and hearing advertising, price and quality is obviously a big one, and it's still up there. But actually, it's also about ease of purchase and availability. And the quality is obviously still there. But I think, you know, even for me, you know, as soon as we went into lockdown, I was like, I need to get a desk. Obviously, price was high up there. But also I needed to make sure it's easy for me to purchase. I've got an awful lot going on with my children being at home, with me working from home, and I needed to make sure it was available, and it was available quickly. So all of these considerations now are really high on consumers' agenda. Category considerations as well, so price is particularly high across phones. Ease of purchase as well, from insurance and products, and availability as well, and being able to get those products really quickly and really easily. Changing attitudes, and I think this is an important one for any brands out there and anyone who's kind of listening, is just making sure that you're able to sort of focus on what you're doing to make sure that you get your tone right when you're advertising, because actually consumers now are really looking at and they're really analysing how brands are protecting their employees, how they're giving, you know, how they're supporting the NHS, how they're supporting the vulnerable, and that's really, really important. And it's important that that really comes through in the advertising as well. But actually, on saying that, I think with all of the changes and with everything that's happening, there are more and more consumers now that are actually willing to try something else. They're actually willing to switch brands. So, you know, they're looking for those brands that are adapting well to what's happening, and actually willing to maybe potentially switch over and try something new and try something different. And I think, you know, that will also continue when we come out of lockdown. It'll be interesting to see how those brands continue to be able to demonstrate that they're supporting the communities and the local towns and where people live, to ensure that that's still kind of coming through. I think, you know, those that were around in 2009 will know that it's really important to continue with that advertising as well. And actually what we found is that 87% still want to hear from those favourite brands during lockdown. So it's really important to continue with that advertising during this time, and actually finding that right tone as well. So we're seeing a real increase across everything. Everything remains to be, you know, remains really high. And actually we're seeing a lot more Gen Z kind of listening coming through on the streaming services side of things as well. And we're also seeing that midday listening is also on the rise. So I'm conscious of time, so this is my last sort of few slides. But really sort of thinking now, I think it's a real opportunity now for how, you can adapt and change marketing plans, because it's a real opportunity to tap into those consumer habits. And it's even more important now. And actually, from what we're seeing on digital audios, there's a real increase in reach and access. So it's an opportunity to really look at how you balance what maybe you've been doing previously to something new, and diversifying your marketing channels. And also enabling you to make those deeper connections, and ensuring that you're building. And for us as a business, we've really focused on our content and our editorial content to make sure that we're really aligning with what we know our audiences want. And that's really important now, to really look at those trusted relationships and how brands are partnering with them. The other big opportunity with digital audio is actually owning those moments in people's lives and being able to personalize things and make sure that things are relevant, whether that be at lunchtime, whether that be on a Friday evening, but you get all of that with digital audio. So that's it. So thank you. I did it in kind of record time because I was conscious of time. My details are there, so please feel free to contact me if you have any further questions. We are releasing different sort of new insight every week, and we're making sure that it's up on the IAB as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vicky, Peter and Andy. That was absolutely brilliant. A very comprehensive run through 3 different areas there. A lot of overlap, even with your children, Vicky, who are currently in-app and in-game all at the same time, stopping you from being able to talk to us about audio. But well done for going through it. But whilst just, if anyone else has got any questions, please do ask them now on the Q&A tool at the bottom. Just a quick one, Vicky, for you, whilst you're there. Have you seen, obviously, usage is up massively. Obviously, one of the challenges for us as an industry is that advertiser demand is down. But how are you seeing advertisers respond to audio specifically? Has there been any change in the last sort of few weeks, or has it been affected in the same way as everything else?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, good question. I mean, obviously at the very beginning it was everybody was sort of pausing things, and it wasn't a great time, but we're really seeing now, I think, where brands have really taken stock of what they need to do, reevaluate the situation, and actually, obviously looking at their creative and getting that tone right is really important. So I would say over the last few weeks we've seen things pick up. But it's felt like, all the brands and the marketing teams needed to go back, needed to sit down, reevaluate the situation, relook at what they needed to do, make sure that they get the creative right. And I think radio and digital audio is able to do that, because we can be a lot more agile and a lot more flexible.
Yeah, that makes sense. If there are no last questions from anyone, or if there are, please do type them in now. Right, just say a big thank you to Vicky, Peter and Andy for taking the time out to talk to us today. Big thank you for everyone that's online listening, and also you'll see a link there to give us some feedback. We'd love it if you did give us some feedback, because we'd love to know how to make these sessions as relevant and as useful as possible. It'll only take you a couple of minutes. Vicky, Peter, Andy, well, normally in an event we'd give you a massive round of applause. You'll have to assume that everyone is clapping vigorously now as you leave. So thank you very much for your time and effort. We'll look forward to seeing everyone else at our next weekly webinar. And if you have any questions for any of us, please do drop us a line. We look forward to hearing from you all soon. Thank you very much. Goodbye.